Welcome to Jack Jing, Executive Vice President of Suning Technology, and Martin Reeves, Chairman of the BCG Henderson Institute. Martin, let me start with you, please. This is going to be a conversation that I'd like to think of as being applied technology. We're going to go deep with you, too, about how businesses are using the technology that we've been discussing for the past 2 days, both in China and around the world. You recently completed a major study on AI with MIT, I believe. Tell everyone about it, please.
Yeah, so the aim was to survey the reality, warts and all of AI in the context of business. So we surveyed about 3,000 companies globally, and we looked at what they were doing with AI. We looked at which ones were actually extracting current value from AI, and we looked at the characteristics of those successful companies. And I think some of the main conclusions were that everybody's doing it. So 80% of the companies that we surveyed are investing in AI. About the same number expect it to be transformational within 5 years, but only 30% are actually extracting current value. And some of the things that those companies do, actually mostly organizational, interestingly, are they don't run, it's a little controversial, but they don't run the projects out of the IT department.
Yep.
That's a failure factor. They have a variety of projects. They have a portfolio, not just one big bet. They're actually focused on the revenue side and not the cost side. The companies that focus on costs are generally not successful.
Okay, I'm going to pause you because you just made 17 great points, and I want to come back to the first one, which is that almost everyone's doing it. What does that mean to do AI? And I will let Jack be very specific about what his company is doing in a moment. But generally, what does that mean? How do I do AI?
Well, most of the companies are actually investing in AI and have AI projects. But the ones that are merely doing that rather than integrating in the business are generally running it as a technology project out of the technology function, focused on improving the efficiency or the cost effectiveness of existing processes, and that isn't enough to generate current value, generally speaking. Whereas the successful companies are really treating it as an integrated part of their strategies. So
tell me if my paraphrase is fair, that an unsuccessful company will buy an AI product and run it for some purpose, for some discrete purpose. A successful company is investing in incorporating AI into its business.
That's right, and there's telltale language that the successful companies use, actually. So if companies talk about an AI strategy, one should generally be suspicious. That's a bad sign, because obviously there's no such thing as an AI strategy that isn't driving the general business strategy. And also, to make AI successful, it needs to be connected to data, it needs to be connected to cloud, it needs to be connected to business strategy. So companies that talk about an AI-first business strategy are generally successful. Ones that talk about an AI project or an AI strategy are generally biased towards failure.
And it's like thinking of a company that would say they have an electricity strategy.
Exactly, or a water strategy, yeah.
Right, okay, great. So I'm going to come back to you, Martin, and Jack, I'd like you to, I will want you to talk about the same thing, how Suning is doing AI. But first, let's just make sure that especially our non-Chinese audience has a good grounding of Suning, which is a very large, multifaceted Chinese retailer. Maybe you could give a quick overview, please.
Okay. Thanks to having me today. It's quite an excellent conversation for this topic. Recently, I have been asked about AI, cloud, and big data. Most of the people talk about AI, they come back to technology. In my mind, AI, big data, kind of the digitalization, not only for the technology, but most important means a strategy for a company, for organization. Strategy, based on the strategy, we have a different operation model, different talent they required, and then come back to the technology. So today, the digitalization, including AI, big data, and cloud, we define the new business model. We define the new product. We define the new services. That's Suning. We practice the transformation, digital transformation in the past 10 years.
Before you go on, but so Suning began as an electronics appliances retailer, but you're now far more than that. You're a supermarket retailer. You own, you're a department store retailer. And talk about the journey of going from physical. You're still a very large physical retailer to digital.
Yeah, let's come back to Suning. Suning, we are the biggest omni-channel retailer in China right now. In 29 years ago, we come from a chain store for electronic only. In 2011, our sales revenue almost 100 billion RMB in China. We made a decision, means we go digitalization transformation. Today, this year, I believe we'll reach almost 600 billion revenue sales volume in Suning Globe. How we did kind of 6 times growth in the past 8 years? Because we do kind of the digitalization transformation. The transformation, I personally think, we come from 3 different dimensions. The first dimension means we do electronic in the beginning. Electronic is all our type of the retail business. But today, we have whole product category, included 16 different type of store. And we have a total 13,000 retail stores around China, included Suning Online and apps. So today's Suning, we have a digital matrix. In the Y-axis, we have online store, supermarket, convenience store, sports store, almost every retail type we have in China.
Let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'm curious. You have all these different kinds of retail stores and online stores and brands.
Yes.
Is there one technology group serving them, or are there several?
Single platform.
And please tell us about that.
Why we do this kind of transformation from 3 different dimensions? I just mentioned, first dimension, we come from different kind of store we have in China. And in the X dimension means we have 6 different delivery logistics in China. We can pick up in the store immediately. We provide half hour, 1 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, and 24 hour. The amazing thing means
delivery.
Delivery, yeah. 6.
I'm sorry, you said half hour?
Yeah, half hour. I will mention later about we have a new concept means 1 hour life cycle. Yeah, I mention later. So today in China, more than 95% of the city around China, we can deliver to door within 24 hours. Most all of the first tier, the second tier cities, we can deliver to door within 4 hours. And is the second dimension. The third dimension means we provide from electronic to all category. Especially we acquired Carrefour China 2 months ago. It will be increase and improve our supply chain for the consumer products. Come back to technology. Okay.
Now, no, before I want to go to Martin in a moment. Give us one example of how you're using artificial intelligence.
Okay, let me make example. In Suning Online, totally we have 52 million products online. 5.0 like this. But an individual store, almost 3,000. So how to match around China 13,000 retail store, each store, to pick up 3,000 from means the 52 million products online totally. Basically, if we have just a single store, we can based on the human brain, right? Well, means the by experienced person. But today in Suning, we use the AI and the big data. Firstly, we will analyze what kind of a customer around a single real store. And based on the characteristic of the consumer data, we get AI analysis. what kind of a product can match for this store and serve the consumer around the store like this.
The AI has become your buyer.
Yes.
In a very meaningful way.
Yeah.
Martin, you said something, I think, controversial a moment ago, which is that the successful companies investing in AI think about revenue, not cost. Would you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think no surprise that Suning was in the Fortune Future 50, which is this list of companies with the highest predicted growth, actually using AI-driven analytics, because the features that you described of your use of AI, I think, are precisely the success factors. You're revenue growth oriented.
Yes.
You're not running it out of the IT function. You have multiple applications, and fundamentally you're using it in service of an integrated business strategy, not as a technology project. So I think it's a perfect sort of real world example.
Yeah.
But now, in the United States, and I think to some extent in China as well, companies focusing on revenue to the exclusion of profits is becoming very unpopular. Does your advice conflict with the trend?
Well, it's long been the case that value ultimately in the long term has to come from growth. You can't cut your way to value in the long term. But we do see that the polarization of the economy, according to our research, into primarily companies which are very high growth, high PE ratio, but low profitability, and ones that are quite profitable and have good cash flow, but are low growth, the incumbent companies. And of course, the trick is to have both, to actually be generating cash flow now to pay for future growth. There are a few companies that can do that. We call that strategic ambidexterity, but that's the goal.
You're suggesting, by the way, that companies that don't have a good business model or who have very poor margins, almost by definition, will not be able to invest in artificial intelligence and big data.
Yes, I mean it's a scale-driven business strategy that requires a lot of investment to actually have the biggest data set and the biggest proprietary ecosystem driving the biggest learning machine with AI. So to afford that investment on a sustainable basis, indeed, one needs a path to positive cash flow. So in this year's Fortune Future 50 index that we did together, we actually included that as one of the criteria, which is a path to cash. In anticipation of possible slowdown in the global economy. I think that becomes very important.
Great. Jack, Alibaba is a major investor in Suning.
Yes.
They do a lot of their own artificial intelligence and big data research. Can you explain how your two companies work together on technology?
Yeah. Suning, we have independent IT department around 12,000 IT specialists around China, including Silicon Valley. We have a lab in there. Suning and Alibaba, we run different business model. Alibaba is IT e-commerce platform. Suning, we run retail business. It means 1 hour working cycle. Previous, the e-commerce in China, the model like this. Today, I make an order online and deliver it to door tomorrow. But most of the city around China, fast moves the cities, areas, they not satisfy this model. Means one day buy and the next day to delivery. They want to buy and get the product right now. So in this model, Suning, we have an advantage, means we have a store, real store around the people, around the areas. So we use AI and big data to analysis. For example, we already have this business in Shanghai and Nanjing. We not only provide the product from store, but also we provide the product based on the AI analysis from the regional warehouse. And the customer, we will predict what kind of product the customer will be interested. Then we transfer the product from our central warehouse to the regional warehouse. When the customer make order online, the regional delivery team just deliver the product to the door within 1 hour. Not only for electronic, but also for the consumer products, even fresh food. So this kind of a model, why we can do this kind of model? Because we have AI technology. The AI technology not only for the e-commerce, but also very deeply to understand the consumer offline around our store in our area, territories.
What I think is so illuminating listening to you talk about an offline company going online is your emphasis on the back-end technology that is so important given your physical nature. You're obviously interested in serving consumers as well. Talk a little bit about things like facial recognition and virtual reality. How important is that for Suning?
Yeah. In the past 10 years, internet plus the retail is really means the push the retail business growth in China, right? So in the internet, all of the behaviors for customer can be recorded. From the first page to second page, and what kind of picture you stay, how many times like this. But in the offline, the traditional technology cannot solve like this kind of the informations. Today in Suning, we call smart retail, especially for the real store. We use the AI camera to monitor the consumer to income our store and what kind of the trends from the first layer to second layer to third layer, and how many stores you just visit. And for example, you just open a TV, and how many times you stay around front of the TV. So this kind of information will based on AI camera, and we get big data.
It's so interesting. You say you're doing exactly the same thing that e-commerce companies measure in terms of how long someone stays on a website. You're measuring how long they stand in front of the television. Are you doing this in every store or only some stores?
All of store we can trace the consumer behaviors offline. And most fantastic thing means 2 months ago, we just opened the first wave of the autonomous store in China. The autonomous store not only kind of the free shopping and open shopping, but also we included face recognition. Previous, you don't need to take a wallet, right? Just a mobile phone. But today in Suning, you can just experience in Nanjing. You just use your face. Just walk in the store, pick up your product if you want, and just leave. Okay,
so this is it's a limited beta experiment for Suning in Nanjing.
In Nanjing.
How's it going?
Yeah, we will explore the autonomous store around China from next year.
How many stores?
We have a plan in the next 3 years. Around 1,000 autonomous store will be opened in the next 3 years in China.
These are new stores, not existing stores.
New stores.
Fascinating. Martin, an interesting part of your study, you reached conclusions about the United States and China being ahead on artificial intelligence compared with Europe and other parts of the world. Let me play devil's advocate with you. I'm curious to your response. Why does that matter? Isn't this technology available for purchase by anyone who can afford to pay for it?
Well, a lot of the algorithms, of course, are public domain, open source. The data isn't. The data is proprietary. It's a race for data. And the business systems that actually will be driven, if not national security, will be driven by AI. So it is a very relevant question, who's winning? So we've looked at that question very closely, and our conclusion is that absolutely America and China collectively are in the lead. They're getting between 75 and 90% of any metric that you want to measure, whether it's academic or unicorns or venture capital funding. So, what does Europe do is a huge question. And then in terms of, is America in the lead? Is China in the lead? The truth is they're in the lead on different things. So the statistically, looking across the 3,000 companies, Chinese companies are extremely application-oriented. The number of competitors per area of application is huge. The number of applications per company is huge. So you could say it's a very competitive and fast-learning application pool. The Chinese actually at this point have more academic papers, but the Americans still have more citations per paper, more higher quality papers. So I think the Americans still lead on next generations of AI technology. But huge policy question for Europe is, what does Europe do in that scenario?
And can you make a generalization based on your research on how American corporates compare with Chinese corporates in artificial intelligence?
Well, it's basically the same game, but there are some nuances. So Chinese companies are more revenue-oriented. I said that revenue orientation was very important. They tend to have a bias towards more multiple applications. The average number of applications per company is higher. Also, one hallmark of the maturity of the technology, you've got a lot of companies out there that are playing with pilots and studies, and some of them where it's really driving the business. The ones that are still playing tend to be focused on the opportunity of AI. The moment it becomes real, it also becomes a competitive threat. And Chinese companies, I think, are definitely, we measured this, acutely aware of the competitive threat. There's a competitive race in the areas.
Yeah. Jack, I want to end with you on a different competitive threat. In the previous panel, there was a conversation about mini apps and how well they work inside of the Tencent WeChat system. How does a company like Suning, which is allied with Alibaba, deal with that ecosystem?
Yeah, I'd like to have an opinion based on Martin's just talking about the ability for the AI for company. My opinion like this. In the past 5 years or 5 or 10 years, the biggest company, they invest the resource to AI, to cloud, right? They own the ability to grow their business. But today, most important means how be more attention about the middle or small size of the business. Because they are limited resource. They have short of the IT staff inside their organization. So as a big company, we already get beneficial from the AI, from big data, right? So today we are thinking about means how to enable, based on our result, our ability, how to enable, how to support them work together, to help them to grow together. Because retail always domestic. Diversity. The diversity means we not only do business alone. We need to do business together. So Suning's team, we have mission means we are open for all of partners. Even they run retail business. We want to export our solution free. And we can export our ability, work with them together to help them, especially for the middle or small business.
I think you're totally right, Jack. I think you're touching on a couple of issues that we'll be worrying about in the future there. One of them is AI ethics, the acceptability of the way that we use AI. And the other one is justifying the existence of this sort of monopoly power that accrues to AI, to use that responsibly. Two big issues.
Since we're out of time, I'll just ask you, yes or no, is Suning at a disadvantage because of the mini app system that operates within the WeChat environment? Yeah,
well, WeChat definitely will be one of the best channel for retail business and kind of the online traffic. So we have this kind of the collaboration with WeChat. But honest, today as a retail company, we always more attention means we are bridge between the consumer and the brand and the manufacturing. So later, based on the AI and the big data, we are working on restructure the relationship between the consumer, platform, brand, and manufacturing. I believe will be a lot of the benefits will be in there.
Gentlemen,
it's a huge.
Very stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.